Okay, instant reaction. Jim Harbaugh has been suspended for the rest of the regular season, according to Big Ten officials. What do we know? What more information are we finding out? Let's go ahead and discuss. If you're brand new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. I talk NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, but I love talking college football. And if this is the type of content you enjoy, this is the channel made for you. So hit the subscribe button down below, leave a comment telling me your thoughts on the Jim Harbaugh situation, and let's, as always, continue to talk college football. So, according to the Big Ten officials, Jim Harbaugh will be suspended for the rest of the regular season. He will be allowed on the likes of the practice facilities during the weeks. He will be able to game plan with the organization for their final 3 games against Penn State, against Maryland, and against Ohio State to close out the regular season, but he will not be permissible on the sidelines during the games. Now, 3 things that I want to get out of the way real fast. I thought this was a little bit of a harsh punishment. Personally, I understand where you come from, especially if you are a Big Ten team that has yet to play Michigan. You're very excited because now potentially the architect behind the success storyline that is Wolverine football is no longer going to be on the vicinity. So that's one thing. I thought this was probably one that could have been involved with an excessive fine, but according to the Big Ten bylaws, you're only allowed to give out a $10,000 fine. I honestly think Tony Petitti could have gone out of his way to make sure that this was a more substantial fine. Would that come with the likes of getting rid of scholarships, more so being involved when it comes to $1 million going towards the university, more money going towards Harbaugh himself. All of that and a bunch of sticks is a whole different process. Here's the thing. Michigan is going to do everything in their power to make sure Harbaugh is on the sidelines at least this weekend. And according to Michigan's reports, as it has been now announced by the university, they are taking action. This is a legit statement from the university. Like all members of the Big Ten Conference, we are entitled to a fair, deliberate, and thoughtful process to determine the sets of full factors before a judgment is rendered. Today's actions by Commissioner Tony Petitti disregards the conference's own handbook, violates basic tenets in due process, and sets an unattainable precedent of assessing penalties before an investigation has been completed. We are dismayed at the commissioner's rush to judgment, and therefore we as an ongoing investigation, one that we are fully cooperating with. Commissioner Petitti's hasty actions today suggest that this is more of about a reacting to pressure from other conference members that is a desire to apply rules fairly and impartially. By taking this action at this hour, the commissioner is personally inserting himself onto the sidelines and altering the level of play field that is claiming to preserve. And doing so on Veterans Day, a court holiday, to try and upthwart the university from seeking immediate judicial relief is hardly a profile in importance. To ensure fairness in the process, we intend to seek court order together and Coach Harbaugh, preventing this disciplinary action from taking further effect. Long story short, just from what I read, they're going to do everything in their power to make sure he is on the sidelines for tomorrow's game. And tomorrow's game is a big one because I think a lot of people, yours truly, is excited and more so intrigued to see what Michigan looks like moving forward now that they have to play up against a giant bully. We can all agree. And I have been a proponent of this for a very, very, very long time. I don't really give a flying care in the world what you say about your schedule. You are what your schedule says you are. It's a load of crap. It all depends on not who you play, but how you play. Michigan has dominated every opponent that they've gone up against this year. But I will say, you look at Penn State, they have been battle tested. They have gone up against more quality opponents. You look at Michigan, this is their first real test against another bully and a tyrant in the Big Ten. And losing a guy like Harbaugh for this game is probably a nail in the coffin in some standards, especially when you're going to ask somebody else to handle the play calling, handle the decision-making, handle these small little avenues that do play precedent to deciding the outcome of a game. So they're going to do everything in their power to get him out there. I fully expect to see Harbaugh on the sidelines tomorrow. That's a given. I honestly think that this is just completely beyond context at this point. I do. I agree that Michigan should be very much penalized for their actions involving Connor Stallions and the sign stealing scandal, because it does give you a competitive advantage when it comes to the on-field play. What I will say, though, is that Michigan as a team, it's Michigan. The talent-wise, from a perspective standpoint, they are better than everyone else that they face off against, besides Ohio State and besides Penn State. And even then, some years they are more competitively balanced and more so found at the same level, if not a higher level, than both those teams. And that's played a factor into their success over the last 2 years. The sign stealing scandal alone brings its own problems to the table. But the bottom line is that from a talent standpoint, Michigan was always going to beat up on both those teams. On any team that they played, they were going to win that game. And it doesn't matter if it was a Rutgers or a Michigan State. From a talent perspective, they were going to win those games. And I can tell you this much. Once it was announced last month that there was an investigation going on due to sign stealing, everybody that was on Michigan's schedule was changing up their signs at an instant. So there was never going to be a competitive advantage when it came to the sign prognosis of Penn State or Ohio State. They were automatically going through the record books and making sure none of the stuff that could have been filmed by Connor Stallions over the last 2 years was going to be on our play sheet. It wasn't going to happen. And I think honestly that Michigan was always going to be penalized, but at the same time, it wasn't coming this way. So what does the Big Ten do? They actually don't punish Jim Harbaugh per se. What they do is they punish Michigan by saying that your leader of the pack has to be on the sidelines or not in case involved in the situation. Basically, imagine like a CEO having to be on an administrative leave or be on intermittent leave because of there's an investigation going on with the Fortune 500 company. Like they're not punishing the employees and they're not punishing the CFO and the COO. What they're doing is they're punishing the guy at the very top because of he's in charge of the investigation, even if he doesn't have a role in said with the company. And right now, there is no viable information that says Harbaugh knew about Stallions. Now, I'm going to be completely straight. I think that's a load of crap. I think it's absolutely a load of crap. I don't care if Bill Poggi comes out and says, I know Jim Harbaugh like the back of my hand. I know my mom and my dad like the back of my hand. They keep secrets from me. They hide stuff and they do what they can to protect me. And the same thing goes with my wife. And the same thing goes with my brother. And the same thing goes with my friends. We don't always know everything about someone's life until it's already out in the open. And even then, we're still finding out information years later. I don't buy it. I don't buy that Harbaugh didn't know about the scandal. But what I do buy is that the NCAA was never going to punish Michigan. And that's kind of where we are with this whole thing right now. Michigan was never going to be left out of the college football playoff. And it didn't matter if Boo Corrigan came out and said this is an NCAA issue or a college football playoff issue. They weren't going to be left out because of it's a product. And this is the way that Tony Petitti goes and has his cake and eats it too, in a sense. Whether or not Michigan agrees with Petitti's comments or his decision or the Big Ten's decision, this is the best avenue for him to be able to walk away kind of washing his hands clean and say, I did my part. Because when you punish the school and Michigan still finds a way to win and they still find a way to end the year undefeated, go to Indianapolis and play for a Big Ten title, thus securing their spot in the CFP, no one bats an eye. At that point, you say, okay, well, Michigan, maybe they're not a top 4 team, but they handle business. Look at that. They're going to the college football playoff. And they were never going to be left out because of it's a ratings game and it's a product game. I love college football. I think college football is the greatest sport that has ever graced the planet. And I believe that college football is completely different than what we get in the NFL. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing that we have fans that absolutely are encapsulated on Saturdays and only Saturdays. And just because of that, we have something to hold as our own. But the thing is that no matter how you want to phrase it, it's a business. It is a business first and a product second and a game third. That's the way it goes. College football, when Michigan's in the playoff, is good for business. When product of the Big Ten is mentioned on the center stage, it is good for business, and that is a product. And then the game itself, you have compelling matchups that end up going down to the wire, is a whole different spectrum. But that's the pecking order it goes in. Michigan, as a business model, is always going to be involved in the college football playoff. And it's because of the branding, the recognition, the mantra, the name, the image, all of it. They were never going to be left out of the college football playoff. So how does Tony Petitti get out of it? He tells everybody, I'm going to make sure that Harbaugh is not on the sidelines, whether or not it's for this game against Penn State, whether it's not in the game against Ohio State. I'm going to lay down the law and say he is not on the sidelines. And if they win, What do? They're the Big Ten champions. We're really going to leave out the Big Ten champions. This is a saga that is never seeming to come to an end, whether or not it's with the Ryan Day and his family being involved with the investigation, Connor Stallions on the sideline playing Halloween in week 1. It's a saga that was never coming to an end, that always had kind of a dumb, what the hell feeling. That's the way that I view it. And ultimately, if Michigan does its job, guess what? They're going to be in the CFP. Whether or not I agree with Tony Petitti's calling, whether or not the NCAA believes that Michigan was sign stealing and they want to punish Harbaugh, all that aside, this was always going to be a stupid outcome. And the only one that walks away a winner in all this right now is actually Tony Petitti. Everyone else, there is still a chance to lose. There's still a chance for agony. There's still a chance for heartbreak. I disagree with the call. I don't think that Harbaugh, though, will not be on the sidelines tomorrow. I believe that when he touches down on Veterans Day, personal holiday, all that, when he touches down, he will be coaching tomorrow in Happy Valley. So it's a moot point, at least for now. They probably will be able to dethrone and dismantle Maryland with or without Harbaugh on the sidelines. But ultimately, that's what the decision was made for by the NCAA. The Big Ten. This is where Tony Petitti is lying right now. He's made his bed. This is what he's going to stand by. I personally believe that Michigan still can control its own destiny. I still believe that Michigan, if they run the table, will be in the CFP. And the best way to make sure that all this happens is by having this type of sanction laid down. They're not punishing Harbaugh. They're punishing Michigan. And even then, I'm not sure it's going to go their way as they see fit. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.